The crazy thing is I don't even think the change exists within the draft. We've talked about it in our earlier discussion within the green room. It starts within the play. And for the likes of Purdue, having such a struggle in that early game starts with how you respect the laning phase. The fact that they didn't came back to bite them so hard from a team that is so good at holding out and so great that even in what could have been a stop against Northwood, they survived. We'll start this draft off just the same way as game 2. We take away IC's Mirage. We take away Jester's Haze.
And really, like, what else are you going to do here if you're either side? I mean, those are two heroes that you just don't want on the board for either of those characters. So yeah, get them out of here. I think another thing to talk about too, we do have a substitution on the side of Purdue, and it is Monster taking place of Nocturnal heading into this game number 3. Nocturnal, game number 1, fantastic on the Wraith, and even game number 2, I don't really think we saw this Infernus bloom into what could have been, but it seems like Purdue have an idea, and it is the trust there that you trust now Monster to come in and really make that difference for your team.
All right. I'm very curious to see what Monster puts together here. We talked a little bit about Nocturnal and what she offered to the roster, and between pickups like that Wraith and that Infernus, fantastic hyper carries. Just needed to see potentially some more aggression out of them. Maybe this is the answer. Something to note, though, is for Purdue, with Bebop back on the board, it's likely that we are reintroducing that one to Cardi, no longer on that Abrams, potentially what we saw out of our semifinal stage.
And again, Abrams is great for Cardi. I think you saw Cardi get picked off one too many times that you would have liked in that last game, but especially in the early portions, allowing those Guardians to just get decimated for the side of Purdue. But this Bebop was very useful versus Thomas, and we saw that Bebop ban actually in game number 1. So obviously Northwood saw that, and they're like, hey, we don't want to deal with this, but they didn't want to deal with the Haze a little bit more. So leaving the Bebop open kind of makes you think maybe we get that Ivy Bebop gimmick again.
Yeah,
I'd like to see it.
I'm very curious. Yeah, I think it could be good. Ultimately, Macron has looked super good on this Ivy. It wasn't a strong early game, but still came in with a lot of power potential as we made our way through that game. I'm very curious to see if that Wraith ends up notably on Jester, or if we're still potentially cooking some options. The Great Talon, very strong, very minor changes there. We got a little taste of that earlier on Purdue's side, notably on a player who is not currently with us. It was Esua, who was very good, notably on that Great Talon. Still a strong pickup. We're definitely turning this one for a loop. We are shaking things up from different pickups for Purdue, different players, to completely different picks. It's a Hail Mary opportunity.
And they also take the Calvin away from Slew and the Wraith away from Icy, so that kind of leads the question of where is the heroes going on the side of Northwood. We got an Infernus now, the Paradox as well. The McGinnis is coming back for maybe Slew to run. I'd imagine Slew's going to grab that McGinnis as quick as possible, but for the rest of them, if Infernus isn't going over towards Icy, if it's maybe going back towards Tired instead of that 7, then for Icy, I don't want to see you go back to that Warden. Yeah, right up close and personal, that Warden was tough in the early game, but in the late game, it left a lot to be desired on what Icy's capabilities really could be. But Lady Guys going over to Purdue, maybe we're seeing it go back towards Ian. Great farming coming out of that Lady Guys. Maybe hope to see a little bit more. You and I were talking about that during the break, that Lady Guys had so much potential that we didn't get to see.
Now, this will answer a question with Northwood now. Tired, Braden, those potential options. Icy as well. The Warden
is coming
tells
back.
Me that Tired is probably going to be on that Infernus. Icy to be playing the Warden here again, and what I can only assume is probably a Shiv pickup for Braden if we're going to go down the list.
Never going to
Malachite. It seems like a surefire select here. On the other side for Purdue, we're cooking. Obviously, Cardi back, potential on the Bebop, Flash on that Lady Geist, but everyone else in a complete tussle here for what they end up finally putting together. It's going to be a complete mix of a match for Purdue. I don't think we're going to see as, we'll say, rough of an early game. So in the end, it is not going to be that. We do input, I'm pretty sure, I think this is Jester versus Icy.
Yeah, Jester versus Icy is going to be a fun one to watch, and Jester's actually on the Warden. I'm not sure if these are flipped around. No,
No. I was about to say
the Warden went to Northwood and the Wraith went to Purdue in the drafting phase, so this is completely different than what we were expecting. It's kind of swapped around from what we were expecting jumping into this and what we broke down. And now with Jester on the Warden, it's just...
Hold on. Okay, just want to make a confirmation. This is not...
It was flipped, okay.
This is flipped. Our drafts are correct from the earlier drafting phase. Jester is notably going to... There you go. Should be fixed there, yeah. So Jester should be on that Wraith. Icy on that Warden. This is...
worried for a second.
There we go. Okay, so in the end... Confusion aside, we will start with something clear as day. Icy leads the start there over on Park, and notably, it is Flash in response. And for the rest of Northwood, continuing this one on here. Admiral Rakan with that Bebop in their hands, a new pickup instead. Starting out very well.
Yeah, and I like this from the Lady Geist of Ian, and now with Monster on the Grey Talon, look at that early damage presence that they had against Slew and Foss as you eliminate the Infernus completely, and Slew just barely slips away with, I'd say, 1% health. So this is Purdue who have actually kicked things up a notch when it comes to that early game damage. Yes, you're kind of losing those fights when it comes to those individual lanes, but I think for Icy, you might expect him to turn up fast, but with this Wraith pick on Jester, it's just going to be a matter of time before this Wraith comes online.
I do want to highlight, we were very wrong. It might be the same composition, but it is a switch up here. Well, we'll see how this plays out once more with the bomb on the other side. A bit of damage away, 42 across, barely does Brayden escape. And meanwhile, on the other side, thinks Jester with a pickup. I do want to highlight this before we get caught by something here. It is a big switch. It is going to notably be Faustus, I believe, from what I can see from draft here, on the Infernus once again.
Yep.
But we make a switch instead of Tired being on the other pickup there with Viscous. He's on going to be McGinnis, Slew on the Viscous. So a slight change here. Same comp, different players.
Yeah, just switching things around to maybe what feels a little bit more comfortable for them. And this early game so far, 3 minutes and 30 seconds in, has been a lot better. Icy actually got trades back and forth. Jester did take Icy down just previously, and now Brayden has actually been caught too. So Purdue are stepping up in more than just the kills. They are actually shoving these lanes and forcing Northwood back.
Right, and surprisingly, it's Macron and Monster, who I'd like to highlight more than anything. Monster, albeit not pick up kills yet, has looked... Well, as you can see there, terrifying with those charge shots, absolutely decimating Tired, which is, mind you, while a strong pick, in a really rough spot. We've seen Tired capitalize time in, time out. You do not want to be handing that one away to someone like Monster on this Grey Talon.
Luckily, you do have a self-heal if you are Tired. Not going to sit in that self-heal, and wow, this is what we hate about playing against a Grey Talon. The Guided Owl... not going to get there right away, but maybe can wait this cube out. Surely can wait this cube out.
Still looking.
Where'd he
trying
go?
to secure it. I mean, that's the hard part.
It is the hard part. Trying to go back there and find it. But the chip damage that you get from a Lady Geist and a Grey Talon in lane, it's probably one of the most annoying duos that you can play against.
We were wondering, with Monster rejoining Purdue here to play this final game out, what would we see? We didn't really get a lot of implication from that first setup, and now, with this combo, like you said, it is already Flash here. With that first setup, a big performance out of this last game on the Lady Geist. Just wasn't allowed to perfectly shine due to early feeding. Now this time around, leading the pack against a very aggressive Monster, and potentially what could be another major Guardian here.
Yeah, I was going to say, the issue's not the kills there. Tired, we've been known to struggle in that early game. The issue is that this Guardian is pretty much gone for the side of Northwood. Over in Broadway, that duo is just laying it down when it comes to that damage. Still a little bit of a tug of war over on Parkside. The Wraith versus Warden. That's going to be a fun one. Who's going to work out with the advantage after that. Definitely a lot more health on the Guardian for Icy rather than Jester. But here comes that aggressive concussive combustion into the Guardian there from Faustus. It's not going to collect any kills, but it is going to help this wave be pushed into the Guardian.
Curious to see what itemization was there to potentially save Cardi. I'm going to make the assumption that it was a bit of an AP leveling on the Frost Grenade to give them potentially some heals. I do see it. You can see the little ring around the ability there, so that was potentially there. But no, actually, level 2 up there, minor healing. Okay.
Yeah, that's the healing
Macron,
Nova
another
there
kill.
to get him back.
Yeah,
So,
there you go. Healing Nova. That was all.
Cardi's here to help. And over onto the Kelvin. I like the Kelvin pick for Purdue. So far, it's been a lot better from game number 1. That Guardian has fallen on the side of York and should fall over towards Broadway as well. Faustus forcing back the Moe and Krill. And now the triple up here for Greenwich. It's a little bit of help from the Shiv as well. Everybody grouping up from York into Greenwich for Northwood, maybe to push into the Guardian of Purdue. See if they can get a trade on the map and get a little bit of objective souls going their way. But now that Bebop is here, gotta watch out for those hooks.
Yeah, Macron has been just nasty this game. We're not putting enough respect on the Admiral over here. Has been decimating Brayden for Northwood. That's the 3rd kill, I believe, in response there. And it's not so much about the souls, not so much about the early advantage. It's just the fact that the control from this Bebop has been absolutely perfect. And now, like you said, with those rotations, going to be making their way back to York Avenue for now, but giving the opportunity to make these constant cross-map implications already back into Greenwich.
Yeah, Macron still looking for those hooks. It actually catches Brayden, so that's a little bit of damage onto the Shiv. It's going to give some respect now to Northwood. Voss is going to take a different angle, but Icy eliminates the Park Guardian. So looks like Jester is losing this tug of war when it comes to the objective battle. Souls are still even, so Jester not worried about that just yet. But this is going to give a chance maybe for Icy to also leave lane and start putting pressure elsewhere.
Yeah. Something to work with there. A healing booster now picked up, notably. We just got to check that out on the side of Party on this loot. Once again, the hook. I mean, just perfect. I mean, Macron is just a nuisance in any lane we've seen here, and it's allowing for so much space to exist, and, well, at least anywhere we see, and we'll disappear over to York for now just to clear that wave out, but it's going to be harder and harder. You already know Brayden's weak. Malachite is going to get the same preferential treatment. As the reason this exists is because we've given up completely on the other side with Broadway.
Ian's
we
in
are
trouble.
3-piecing that.
Looking over towards Park. This Lady Geist is overextended. Here comes the concussive combustion, and on top of that, the goo ball.
There's the slow.
Get the swap from the Lady Geist and the assistance now from Ian, but is it going to be enough to maybe switch this around? Lady Geist just trying to live the last stand, procced by Icy, and yeah, you will be able to live if you are Ian. Jester helping out with that. Brayden did end up going down for Northwood, so struggling on that Broadway side still is Northwood, and you do have a triple setup from Purdue trying to push into this Greenwich lane.
This is such a big problem for them. The fact that they've invested so much to play towards Broadway and then failed to make that gank happen over towards the side of Park. I mean, you get to see why this macro falls apart so quickly. The 3-piece on the other end of things for Purdue are more than happy to take advantage of your faltering momentum, and Flash picks up a kill. There's another owl. Make it 2 for Flash on the other side. The bird finds the wall. It doesn't matter, you know? There's wins. Yeah, there's kills.
Snowball Sage outside looking in, but it just seems like this was enough to allow Macron to escape. Purdue have completely flipped the script from game number 2. This is a new look that is almost refreshing, and you gotta be worried Brayden's getting no communication on this. The hook onto the Shiv, and here comes the Moe and Krill. You still have the combo, and that Shiv's gonna be melted down.
There he goes again. I wonder how much of a mission that's begun. I mean, it's something there, but it just goes to show the difference in pressure from Purdue this time around. Shout out to Icy, finding word before the TP. Does secure Jester nonetheless there, but with a 1K difference, surprisingly, while this has stunted Jester and Icy both respectively, it has allowed the remnants of Purdue, who are now investing a lot more of their strengths on Macron, Flash, and Monster, to be so much more explosive in this lobby by stopping Icy in their tracks.
Monster is scary. I mean, I don't think I've seen him miss his one.
I've seen him miss this.
Yeah, I've seen him miss a couple guiding owls, but the charge shots are good. So wherever this owl decides to go,
yeah,
Icy, there we go. And Icy should be gone. I don't imagine him getting away from the Lady Geist and the Moe and Krill, but it is not him that wards it off. It's the assistance that comes through from Faustus to force them back.
Yeah, this is what I'm just trying to say. You know, it's this elevation of the other players from Purdue this time around that just is a highlight of how this composition has been put together. And while, yes, we're not getting that explosive start from Jester, it just goes to show how talented this roster is, and that truly, it's what feels like anybody can be a star here. For Northwood, though, there's still time on the clock. We talk about early KP. Malachite's sure to find one.
And Tired's going to be running the urn. That urn is actually into the side of Northwood, so it's going to be a chance to gain some serious souls, especially if they collect this Broadway Guardian in the Uptown. That thing is going to be deleted. The Hyper Beam, hopefully to force them away, but that Guardian just continues to burn down. Icy's going to find Macron, so Hyper Beam is deleted, and the Snow Ball is actually, or the Snow Globe is actually going to be used to hold this Guardian for a few more seconds. It'll end up dropping, and the urn has arrived to its drop-off spot, so Northwood in an instant have climbed their way back.
Really, really nice there from Northwood, taking advantage of that early pick to convert for macro potential. And, you know, Purdue try. Frozen Shelter is a way to delay the objectives, but the gathering of this team just isn't quite the pick that they need. So this is what I was trying to say before that all exploded. Early game advantages are important, right? Because they do at least dictate the way a map is controlled here. But when we talk about the power potential of these individual mystics, it is a lot more balanced than we give credence to. Yes, you will have those who are far behind like Brayden and Sage right now, but the reality is, on average, you have a lot of playmaking tools still available.
Icy's in deep here. They're finding word onto the Lady Geist, but have to watch out for the combo that comes in. Cubed
Good
up
save.
with the telekinesis, everything getting dumped in towards Icy here just to get rid of this Warden, and Slew trying his best to provide an escape plan here. The Goo Ball just knocking everybody up, and that is going to be the escape from Northwood, successful as they're fighting this now from the outside in. Malachite's going to drop on down, still being chased a little bit, but the handshakes come out, and it looks like they're going to settle that.
In the end, the farm for Central off of the museum is going to be handed off over to Purdue here, but credit where it's due to Slew. Could have been a kill to go alongside it, and Slew makes sure that that is a safe exchange between both the cube and the goo ball there. So it's just another example of how, effective Viscous can be in these supportive situations. Still, though, hasn't changed the fact that we're seeing very oppressive pushing here in these central lanes, both Greenwich and Broadway. I'd love to see this one maybe extend out. You've got a very low Guardian, but instead, oh no, you have completely locked Tired down.
You thought for a second, you know, I think everybody, when they play, has that idea of, oh, I'm going to sneak into the underground basement of the opponent's side and steal their camp. Well, if you make too much noise and just one person walks by and hears it, that's GG's for you. There's no escaping that.
Yeah, sadly, I mean, it's not even a sneak in there. You're just trying to clear. Trying to clear your camps there for Tired, and in the end, I mean, it goes to show the control of the map still heavily in favor of Purdue, allows them to do this. Now Icy, finally, good lockdowns on Monster. A slippery old man to catch, though. Icy actually pulls away, getting a whiff of the Purdue action who arrives.
And Icy knows that the rest of the team's not too far away from this one. Telekinesis onto who? It is going to be the Icy caught back out. And the heavy barrage, it will not walk them away. The Spectral Wall is going to divide Macron. He doesn't have any of the stamina to climb over it, so they are going to take their sights back over towards Greenwich, where there is a little bit of a team fight, a scuffle, if you might say, going on between the two teams. As Jester just poking and prodding at them. The card trick into the guided owl. Cardi's going to find Slew, and now here comes the rest. They are chasing them down the Greenwich lane and finding Brayden as well. And it's major pickups from Purdue as they have 2 eliminations on the board.
I mean, this is very clean. Icy was one of those eliminations to go alongside that, so 3 total off of that exchange there. And in some of these earlier fights, we've yet to see a really dominant lead like that. As a result, a dominant lead early, a dominant fight early means a mid-boss in your pocket. One of the earliest we've seen in this best of 3, 16 minutes. The steal potential is there. Around the edge.
Looks like they're setting up to fight this.
We'll see.
Northwood may want to look in on this one. No, it's just going to be, hey, how's it going? See you later. Have fun with that. They smack it and pack it. And Purdue now with that mid-boss buff has so much to work with going forward. This is Purdue really stepping up in Game 3.
It's just some of the best performance we have seen thus far from Purdue. It seems like there's nowhere they have failed. I mean, literally everyone outside of Flash. Monster Macron, Jester getting online now with the Souls, and great supportive efforts from Cardi and Sage. And piece by piece, they are decimating Northwood here. And now, they get to open the map up.
Sage swapping away from that solo lane. How delightful has it been seeing this Mo and Krill provide that support?
It's about time. We talked about the access to things like that combo and how it fell short in that matchup against Icy. And while Purdue still won that game, it just shows now in a position where you have that as an accessible tool to get into the action alongside major pickups. I mean, it's making this so hard for Northwood to get involved, especially when you look at the fact, like, Brayden should not be this far behind. Tired and Slew are nowhere to be seen in terms of their soul exchange, but still supportive. In the end, you're relying so much on Faustus, Malachite, and Icy to get the job done in a situation where they're not receiving the adequate peel that they need to survive Purdue and a lot of these exchanges.
I mean, I totally agree, and I think, you know, Brayden was a big focus point back in Game 1 on this shift. It just was not doing enough to assist Icy on this Warden pick, and the Warden cannot do it all alone. This time, at least we can put some highlights onto the Northwood players like Faustus and Malachite, that they're keeping up with Icy when it comes to this soul farming. I mean, you don't need a Viscus to farm that much, but you do need this Shiv to start finding some opportunities with that killing blow. Follow up Icy in these opportunities, but Malachite, hey, what are you going to do there? I mean, that is the Bebop special.
It's part of the reason we did see Banned out coming into that initial game before we got so headstrong on the haze. I was surprised that we didn't see follow through. Finally, Walkers, but from the gank in behind, Northwood looked for responses, but the damage just isn't there.
Faustus in with the concussive combustion. It's going to be met by the frozen shelter of Cardi. Cube down, Slow looking to get away, punch back to the rest of the team. The Divine Barrier, 2 safeties, so only losing out on Malachite and the Walker. That is a heavy blow to lose the Walker, but at least they hold their lives.
I love that from Jester, by the way. The middle of that fight, one that is confidently defended by Purdue, sends the wave crashing into this Walker, takes away a quarter of its health in the meanwhile, and just as quickly as that is, the forced response from Northwood, you know, scrapping at their feet to respond to this, it is immediately Flash here and Sage rotate into York, putting in damage where it counts, and probably sending this York Avenue Walker on its way home.
Like, I'm going to start calling Bebop, Mo, and Krill Shaq and Kobe. I mean, the way that you got Macron just tossing them up and Sage grabbing them with that combo. It's just, it's a tough one to deal with if you're Northwood here, but it's really Macron who, back in game number 2, although Purdue was really falling far behind and Macron on the Ivy was struggling in that early game, towards the end when Purdue were stalling out their base, I think the big saving grace was that Ivy that Macron was playing. And although Ivy maybe wasn't providing that much in that early game, now with the Bebop, you're seeing the skill of Admiral Macron really shine.
And you know what else you see shine? The glass cannon in Macron's pocket. Yeah. That is not an itemization you take lightly into an exchange there. It makes this at least frenzy of combos between the hyper beam, the sticky bomb, and those uppercuts be that much more meaningful when you get into those pick situations. And it's the reason why we see Macron 9-1 coming out of this game for Purdue. You can see I see Shiv. Braden doesn't want you to see him. He's sick of you seeing him.
Yeah, comms are on point right now for Purdue. Spectral Wall is actually going to catch Macron.
Oh!
And Monster's got to be careful because everybody's chasing down this great talent. Tired, looking to track him. Actually trapped right there, so not able to follow just properly yet. A little bit of damage over towards Park.
Purdue
as
collapsing.
You actually have collapsed on towards this Lady Geist, but is the Lady Geist still with their ultimate active? You're going to get the paradoxical swap. Even if you use your ult, you are not going to survive. So I like this call to just run away right now. Try to delay the inevitable and force them into the basement where the rest of your team is waiting. So Malachite says, hey, wall's up. Let's get away.
Woo! It's a spectral wall there, but you got to be respecting the likes of Purdue here. They have not utilized enough utility for this to still not be a problem. Heavy barrage in the end from Tired, going to be the defensive angle here. I mean, it's good, but in the end, it just highlights another major weakness from the likes of Northwood there. They invest so much time off of that take on to Flash, they don't even see the complete wraparound from Purdue coming off of Broadway that just picks them apart piece by piece.
And you're having the York Walker for Purdue being crashed into, but both the Greenwich and the Park Walker being crashed into for Northwood. So they're running the urn. They're trying to clean up their base a little bit. And this is going to be a spot where maybe that soul lead will be cut down a little bit again, but the same will be said about Northwood that I said about Purdue back in game number 2, is that you not only have to win these fights, you have to do it clean because you still have a Guardian active on the side of Purdue. So they have to crack through that Guardian just to get to the Walkers. And the Walkers are total conversation in their own right.
Well, in the end, still options ahead. It's not a massive swing of a gold lead. It's just a lot cemented here, notably on Jester and Macron, and that's something that has spelled out an issue, but I will highlight that there has been some good opportunities for some solo picks. Macron was caught out there at the beginning of that fight. If we hadn't invested on the chase as much there, Northwood looks a lot better coming off of that exchange from Broadway over to Park Avenue. So still, it is going to get a little bit more dicey. We're at that 23-minute mark. If you see these kills continue to explode, this is where the soul stacking really begins.
It does. And I think both teams are going to be recognizing that as Purdue just continues to shove lanes, and that's separating Northwood, keeping them distracted from everywhere else. You see a split push coming up from Macron over towards Greenwich. Jester holding off the Walker on York, and nobody on Northwood really getting any objective presence. They just have to worry about playing cleanup the whole time.
In the end, we do see the slight rotation from Macron over there towards the York side to match the numbers advantage. It isn't going to be much of a pickup here, and especially with all the denizens back on the map, it's likely that we see Purdue. I mean, they could pull away probably and just clean this one up, in my opinion.
I had it flipped for a second. Cardi was saving the Walker.
He's fine. He's fine. He's just. I think this is just going to be a wrap and clean here from everybody.
It's been a lot of Deadlock to watch, but we're still nowhere close to being finished between these two just yet. Even though Purdue may have taken down a couple of those Walkers, they still are not out of the danger zone.
Something that I need to see from Northwood here is this is still within the realm of control. We need to cement some potential flex slots for the end game. This is a team that is capable of turning this around, but if they don't secure the itemization potential now, we get into a situation where come late game, they don't even have a chance there. I love the itemization for Vostis. You see that ricochet. Well, it needs to be supported. We need to see, I mean, the bleed to go along with it and a few other things here. So I want to see them make some good pushes. I want to see them make a macro response here because, you know, Purdue's just choking you out.
I got so excited for a second. I mean, you hear that sound and you're like, oh, who's this time? Who's getting picked up this time? But not this time for Macron. Vostis is actually going to grab bridge item, but in turn, it's his life. Jester, the telekinesis used to isolate the Infernus, and that's going to be a 50-second respawn timer. Guided Owl sent in onto Malachite. Monster's going to be able to finish off the Paradox, and so has the Shiv. fallen down into the graveyard of Northwood. This is looking scary.
These are high cooldowns here. 40+ seconds on the board with waves almost completely pushing here on Greenwich. This is an opportunity to finally open up the base. I will say it is a split team here, not a complete numbers advantage, and maybe Purdue... Yeah, I would probably look towards this Walker, secure that final Walker for that third flex spot, and maybe turn around for the mid-boss instead. Just, I mean, standard macro play. Take advantage of the little wins.
29 seconds on Faustus, though. 16 on Malachite. It's the Walker, maybe, and then probably letting the mid-boss go for now.
Yeah.
But they have to go for the Walker now if they want it. Some of the respawners are coming up now, so the flex slot going to be picked up again. That third flex slot available for Purdue, but Icy is looking to catch them on the exit. The Burrow's not enough for Sage to get away. Macron extremely low for the Bebop. And that kill going to be gifted over to Faustus. Now for Northwood, who were just on the death's door, it seemed. They get the kills on exits, and they get a free mid-boss.
I mean, I got to say, it is just a lack of focus there on that exchange. We got to highlight it perfectly with Monster, and I hate to pick on him because that's the view we get, but with that deep engage from Icy using that last stand, it is clearly a team fight that is separate in its damage. Jester tackled immediately, and you don't even have the support of Monster. He's focusing down the Walker. In the end, it is this split, at least focus, that loses Purdue one of their first major fights and hands away that mid-boss. It isn't the end of all because Purdue is still very strong here.
They're running
but this is going to delay. I mean, this is going to delay the game.
And Cardi's going to be here to match the urn, but I don't think Cardi's going to be able to stop the urn. You have the frozen shelter, but you cannot afford to give up your life. So here we go. Urn's going to be dropped, not delivered just yet.
Wow.
Oh, it did get delivered from Northwood,
Nope. Picked up.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, I just
There you
was
go.
so confused. I saw a few souls up in the air, but it was just braided.
Yeah, I mean, little bit aggressive to try to play around that, especially after being spotted by Flash on that urn take originally. I mean, cooldowns are high, but they're high enough for just the singular objective there. In the end, still, very close game, but one that balloons a bit further. Nice hook from Macron there. We still see the highlight of that damage. A Spectral Roll just barely seals the deal. Concussive Concussion slows things down, but it doesn't change the fact that Tired goes down nonetheless. Finally, though, a good burn. That Toxic Bullets Ricochet combo from Faustus really starting to look nasty here.
Yeah, I thought for a second the return fire was actually going to come back to bite. Tired, it did. Tired ended up falling, but you still get the kill onto Macron's, and you have that extra life, basically, for Tired, so you're going to be able to return to your team quick as could be. And for Purdue, I was going to say, like, the best case scenario for them losing that mid-boss is that they were coming off the spawn relatively soon, and they have all of their ultimates still, so whether or not they want to look for a fight now, get rid of that mid-boss respawn timer right away, it's up to them.
Shadow Weave up and available on Jester. That is a huge tool. You can't see the Wraith coming, and she'll pump the damage out here. Meanwhile, for Last Stand, finding double. A chase ahead. Icy finally locked out by the combo. The paradoxical swap, though, going to put Sage in such a tough position. This is a big win for Northwood. It comes at the cost of some major ultimates, but maybe this is their access into finally getting some walkers where they need it most.
It's a big reason why some people prefer the Paradox over the Mowing Thrill is because you have to put yourself in danger if you're Sage. Now after respawn, the cube going to be used, and Monster with the Guided Owl alongside the Hyper Beam. Purdue, the Walker stands, least over towards Broadway, and the kills now starting to allow them out of their spawn.
It doesn't get much better for Malachite. Chased out there as that final resulting wipe. Northwood does get to ride home off of the edge of that mid-boss Rejuvenator buff, so they will be back into the match there, but it just goes to show even the highlights, the Sage wipes there, that secondary death notably, is not enough for it to be just as confident. Still though, getting that Walker down on Greenwich, absolutely huge. In comparison to last game, where we saw Purdue unable to secure these major flex spots, we are one Walker away from Northwood being a lot more even, and especially with the souls, nowhere close to as much of a balloon in this last game. For a final match of our best of 3. I mean, this is as tight as it gets.
Close. It's such a delight to watch these two play. I had a lot of expectations for today, some desires to see some good Deadlock, and whether or not we got it was to be determined, but here we are seeing two powerhouse schools right now putting each other to the test. And this game is long but over. It seems like a couple fights, and this could really swing for either side.
Yeah, we're going to get into the position where we really are looking for the balance of the 6v6 action here, because you have a lot of the same entities playing very, very well on both sides. And in the end, things like Jester on this Wraith is matched by Faustus on the Infernus. For now, Cardi looking to sustain extra additional leads with Purdue and Earn to be had with the balance on both sides here. It is going to be set up just across, notably on that York side. And to be honest, there's not much of a response from the side of Northwood. Should be able to secure this if supported.
Yeah, not yet, but you are getting Brayden over there, and it is an even soul drop-off, so you have the wave pushed up. Players can get there considerably fast, and it looks like they are going to be taking the zip line over to match them. Everybody's going to be here from Northwood to fight for this, and Cardi's not even full HP. You've lost Monster. That's a big pickup from Malachite, which I can only imagine actually did not use the paradoxical swap. And you can see Proto's response is, yeah, we don't want to take this anywhere close to you.
Yeah, but they'll find Icy off of that rotation. Now slowly starting to walk in there. Blasted away. Faustus will get the concussive, but is pulled just back into it. Hook alongside the rest. Finally, your major damage dealer picked apart in the middle of action is tired. Yes, has set up some escalating turrets there and will delay this action. But it's good setups on the other side from Purdue to slowly pick them off. Slew, the next to fall.
And everybody's going to be brought back to full health using the McGinnis alongside the Calvin, or sorry, alongside just the Calvin in general. And that drop-off is going to be safe as could be. You get the cooldown reduction with your Cardi there. And a whole lot of souls, 196 to 173. Tired is racing to get away from them. And this is Purdue's chance to really put the nail in the coffin.
A fantastic fight ahead there into the Urn. I'd love to see this break open the base, but with those cooldowns still relatively high, maybe this is more of a discussion. Ray Macron in the midst of the pit here. They're going to try to pull for this, knowing they have a small advantage.
It's only Macron here, so this might be bait. As soon as this noise is out, as soon as it roars, a couple of these members of Northwood might look to dive in deep. And yeah, Macron immediately going to back away, see if anybody falls for it, and look for a pick.
Tired pulled on the side, hooked out over, double bomb set up there. Bit of a blast that chunks just absolutely absurd. Tired, the pick that he finds, the rat in the corner. Now a regroup from the Purdue side as that goo ball's coming in to knock things up.
There's a trade onto Monster, so even between both teams. Brayden's going to fall. There's Sage giving an edge now to Purdue for this fight. It's going to get messy, but Purdue, they're happy with that. You got the mid-boss underneath you. Any kills getting you closer and closer to a win.
Slowed.
And now the paradoxical swap, just looking to keep your team in this fight. If you're Northwood, Malachite trying to stay alive, trapped between everybody. Macron gonna hook him, send him back over to the other side, and they are grasping onto straws right now. Slew falls, and that should be the call to give it up.
Still just trying to reset here. Faustus found out nonetheless, even after what was such an extension of that fight, the surviving play for Malachite off of the paradoxical swap. The teleport from behind immediately leads to what I can only assume is the end of Malachite. I see that final member left standing. That might be a binding, but in the face of a telekinesis, I'll tell you what binds just a bit better here. Finally, our Double Guardians picked apart.
And Jester's going to break on in, and you're talking about getting those flex slots. Well, as soon as this falls, it's going to be both or all 4 flex slots for the side of Purdue. You only have 2 on Northwood. 20-second cooldown on Slew. That's the next member up. It's going to be a 3-on-6 just to hold this, and you have the Rejuvenator.
It doesn't even matter. Just send it for the fight, because ultimately, in the end, the reset potential is there alongside it. They have shredded Northwood's base and potentially can look to end. They'll pull away, though. The macro, more preferential, so much of their utility utilized in that fight.
Yeah, why not? I mean, you have everything pointing your way to a victory. There's no need to overstay your welcome. You get out of there and you still have more souls to spend, more camps to get, more items to purchase. This is just Purdue trying to stamp their ticket and cross the finish line.
I'm curious to see some of the itemization here. Lucky shot on the edge, a leech as well here for the likes of Admiral Macron. Big damage to go alongside it. Big survivability has made for a monster of this Bebop. Curious to see what everyone else maybe potentially sets themselves up with now with that extra 4th slot available.
They're cruising right now for Purdue, and hey, for Northwood, everybody's back up. You have your ultimates, and that's solely down by what is 30k. It's going to be tough to fight this next one, especially considering you're still down 2 whole items with those flex slots not being active. It's full defense mode for Northwood.
Yeah, this is really tough here. Now Jester, by the way, Soul Rebirth, a huge problem at hand. Even if you kill him, he'll be on his way back into it. Flash for the Leech as well, alongside that Mystic Reverb. Everyone is a highlight of Stardom. Potentially major max builds across the board here. An absurd soul lead, notably, with 54 secured on Jester, 42 on Macron. It's definitely more balanced than the absurd Haze game we saw.
Yeah.
But in terms of power, team fight potential, anyone has the option to be a problem.
Very put together, Purdue. They're crashing all of the waves as well with the Rejuvenator buff onto the Midians. It's going to be tough just to let these waves sit and stir, so Purdue know exactly what they're doing, and that's why I'm starting to become a really big fan of this team. It is methodical. It's not just crash and burn. It is bleed them out.
Well, this is good. Could have maybe had the opportunity to sustain it. I like the Ice Beam with the Telekinesis on this side. Good Spectral Wall. That stops a major tool from being utilized there. Jester no longer has that available. Hook, though, still finds Malachi.
Absolutely disgusting. He gets a second one. The Refresher serving him up on a silver platter. Slew down to the graveyard. And here comes Purdue for the opening night of College Deadlock, the long-awaited show matches. Purdue, they've been cooking up something good. And it looks like they are marching their way to a victory.
Bostis tries as they might a concussive combustion with that ricochet and bleed. You can try to burn through the remnants here at Purdue, but at the end of the day, your Amber Patron is left indefensible, completely weakened, and dead on the water here for Northwood. A congratulations to Purdue, your victors of the first collegiate show match.